My name is Marie-Eve, but you can also call me Z because Marie-Eve is a French name and sometimes it's a bit hard to say. But you know, Z is easier. And that's also how I'm called all over the internet. So hello and welcome everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this lovely session of pouring knowledge into our brains about animation on Toon Boom's Twitch channel. For those who don't know me, I am a solution specialist at Toon Boom. This means many things. It means I know how the software works. I can help people. I love to help people. I help to develop the software. So I do lots of things. But I am also an animator by trade. I learned on paper, and then I've done some hand-drawn on different shows, such as Big Hero 6. I've done hybrid on Glitch that can cut out animation in Wakfu. So many different things, even compositing. So I'm all around a artist on the software. So throughout these little Twitch sessions, I'll be there to help you learn more about different kind of stuff about that software. And due to popular demand, today we're going to talk a bit more about textures and stuff. Because last time that I was here, I was cleaning up and using cool brushes. And a lot of you amazing people were wondering where I got these brushes to draw some nice little thingies like that. Truth is, in most of the time in life, I'm a bit of a, I wouldn't say lazy, because that's negative. I'm an efficient person. I love to do stuff efficiently. So if Toon Boom offers me amazing brushes, I'm just going to use these brushes and not try to make my own. But if I want to make something that is a bit more personal after using them for a while, well, perhaps I want to learn how to make brushes. So I went ahead and I learned how to make brushes, and I'm going to talk to you about it a little bit. And if you have any questions, feel free to just pop them in the chat, and I will see them and eventually answer them to the best of my abilities. So, as I introduced before, but there was no sound, just going to take a minute to explain a little bit what I was working on at first here. Ooh, my tablet has a little lag. So that was an animation I made because me and some friends, they were there on the stream earlier, some weeks ago. They're Dog and Swift, and they have an amazing little community. And each week we would do this cool animation challenge so that the less experienced animator, the pups, they could maybe try new stuff they had never done before. And even us that have been working in the industry for years, it still keeps us on our toes, because then we can, thank you for tagging the Any Morning Challenge. I was about to do it. So for beginners, it helps them to tackle things they would never have the courage to. And for us that has been doing this for a couple of years, it also allows us to maybe try some things we never thought about trying, or just to redo stuff that we didn't do in a long time. And this particular event, we had a 3D background that we had to animate anything on top of. So I was like, I'm going to give it a try with my Dungeon and Dragon character, because who doesn't want to do like cool parkour stunts? I love to do parkour. I would love to be able to do that kind of stuff, but I can't. But at least I can draw it, so that's great. There's that. So yeah, just a little context. That's one thing I'm going to be working on today. Thank you, Porky. That's nice. And yeah, so that's one thing I'm going to be working on to show you a little bit more about the little texture that we can work with. Because it's a pretty cool thing to do, but there is lots of things to know about textures and harmony. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If I'm talking about textures, can I show some people how to apply a reflected cool shadow for a character into a background? Maybe, but that's not exactly the texture I'm talking about, but I might get there. We'll see. And the other scene I have for you today is this one. You might have seen it before. It's a little otter. It's really cute. Was animated by a very cool animator that I can link in the credits after. It's a very good friend of mine. We worked on Big Hero 6 together. His name is Mick, and he's really cool. And with that little thingy, I'll be able to maybe show you a little more about how to use a very textured look with your animation with the least effort possible. So that's kind of the things we're going to go through today, like talking about texture, but more about like the line work and the actual colors and texture that you are using to make your animation go from here to something a bit more textury, like this. And then again, I'm not lazy, I'm efficient. We're going to do all of that with the minimal effort possible. All right, let me just take a peek at the chat for a second, and I'll make this animation play in the meantime so that it's not boring while I read. Here you go, little otter, do your thing while I read. Also, we had a question about the 3D background. So for this, what I received for the 3D background, what I received was a video file. No, that's not it. Where are you, little file? Yeah, what I received was a video, but you could totally just have a 3D object in your scene. I think I have one here. I don't, but maybe I'm gonna take one after. But you have the choice depending on your computer, because I was working on a very slow computer back then, so I couldn't have the 3D model. I gave myself more chances of success by having it imported as a video file. But if you have a decent computer, you can work with actual 3D model, because yeah, this was a very huge 3D model to import. But yeah, you can totally work with 3D. We have a couple of tutorials that we can also show you later on how to do so in Harmony or Storyboard Pro, because both software has a 3D interface. Just like that, I can like look at my scene in 3D. Whoa, so cool. All right, so let's start at the beginning. We're gonna start from the basics, which is just drawing something. So I have this little otter right here. And so I'm just gonna get a new drawing layer, call it test, because I'm gonna do some tests on it. And don't mind this little node system, it's for later. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go here. There, less confusing. Right, so I have this new layer that I'm going to use to test. By the way, I'm using the node view because that's what I grew up with. But you can also do most of the handling of your layers in the timeline. It's just that I prefer to do it in the node view because my mind likes it better like that. But you can do both, just so you know. Right, so with the test thing, I'm just going to show you a couple of different brushes and stuff that you can do with the software. So what I'm using is, as some of you might know, my favorite brush is the pipe cleaner. I really like it. I also like charcoal, just saying. These are my favorite brushes from the software to start with. And it's funny because they look kind of alike, so that's why they're my favorites. And that's actually important to know. So if you want to make your own brush, because the vector brush, come on. I think it's because I grew up on Flash, but I'm still a Team Bird. Yeah, maybe it's because I grew up on Flash, but I still have a good love for the classic vector brush. Okay, no hate for the vector brush, but you know, everybody wants to get something more at one point. So that's going to be just the the pure vector. Gonna make a little zoom so that everybody can see, like that. But if you want to get something more, usually the first step to create your own brush is to find something that you like. So I'm gonna go through here and I'm gonna find one that I like. And just to make things different, I'm gonna take one that I don't usually use. Let's go with watercolor pencil. That kind of like looks cool. Ooh, that's very interesting. So you can look at you can look at, oh, I love this one. Okay, I'm going to go with this one because it's really great. So that's the default brush I'm going to use to experiment on. And by the way, the quality is not great. I'll cover the whole quality thing in a moment. So I'll cover that, but wait a little. So once you find your brush that you like, you can then go here in the little menu that's going to come here and have lots of options. But the great thing is that depending on which one I click, it's always going to show you how it was made, how it is made in the software. So sometimes you're going to look at the available brushes and you're going to be like, who wants to draw with little dots? But that's actually useful to have some things going on. So everything is useful in there. You just have to know how to use it. And I'm an animator and compositing artist and rigger and stuff. I'm not super good at painting digitally. So my knowledge about brushes is limited. But so is the knowledge of most animator. They're not painters. So I will give you the the knowledge of somebody who's not a painter so that you can also apply that knowledge, you that is probably not a painter as well. We're all trying to do our best, okay? So like, if you don't really know what all these settings do, of course, we have a documentation page explaining everything about how they work. So you can just go there and get to learn what hardness or spacing means and learn that. But yeah, Topspin, ready to learn. That's the best attitude that you can have. Yeah. So then I'm going to go back and get my watercolor pencil, the one I wanted. So if I look at how it's set up, it says there's a tip, smoothing, transparency, everything in there is already set up. So if I want to get that brush, but I want it to do not exactly this, I would like it to be maybe different. Then you can start from that brush and just move a few things. So maybe you want to try not this texture, you want to try another one. So I'm going to go get the star texture because, stars are pretty cool. And when I draw, you see, I'll get something different. Oh my God, we just created something so cool. Look, there's stars in my brush. But that being said, now if you look at my screen, the quality is not amazing. There's two things to note about that. Vector brush properties is your best friend when using brushes. Totally, yeah, that's totally true. But the reason why it doesn't look amazing compared to the slick vector brush is because even if this is like Harmony's amazing technology called textured vector brushes, so they move like vectors, they're still wearing kind of a bitmap costume. And I can say that because it's Halloween, so I can talk about like Halloween costumes and stuff. So that's actually related to Halloween, so that's cool. So like they act like vectors, but they still look like bitmaps. So that's why when I zoom in, I lose quality. Because if I look from far away, now my brushes, they look okay, just because I was zoomed in. So that's one thing. But if you want your animation, your textured vector animation, to look good, even if you zoom on it, there are some things you can do. And that's what I want to explain to you before we dive into the brushes. Because you can spend your days working on a nice brush. If you don't have the quality, then what's the point? So we're going to take the brushes and just set them aside for a moment and just focus on our layers themselves. So when you work with textured brushes and layers, one thing that is important to learn is your environment. Like, what are you going to draw on? The resolution, like if you're in Photoshop or in another painting software, you need to take care of your resolution. The resolution is how much, and like, don't quote me on this. I think the resolution is kind of how many pixels you have in a certain designed space. So there's a difference between having a canvas, which is, okay, I'm not going to draw with that brush for now. So there's a difference between having a canvas that is rectangular, that has like 1,000 pixels wide, or having a canvas that is like 4,000 pixels wide. If it's 4,000 and you zoom in, it's going to look better than if it's 100, okay? To change the resolution in Harmony, there's a couple of ways to do it. So let's talk about the boring stuff, so the resolution, so that then we can start to talk about the, oh, thank you, Provo Creative, for the resolution. So now people in the chat, you can actually know the exact numbers of these resolutions. So we're going to talk about the resolution because it's boring, but very useful. And after that, we can really dive in to create our cool brushes. So resolution, there's 3 places you can change it. You can change it in your preferences. You can also change it in your scene. And you can change it per drawing or like frames. Okay, and I'm gonna go it quickly. It's not a tutorial, it's just to show you it exists. You can dive into the documentations after if you want. But I think it's really important for me to tell you that because I learned it pretty late in my life and I wish I knew that earlier. So let's dive in. So first, if you go in your preferences, I'm not on a Mac, so it's here, preferences. There is a thing called drawing. And in there, you have the default canvas in size and pixel density for bitmap or for vector. And I can't zoom in, so you have to trust me on this one. So these are the default canvas size that you're gonna get for when you draw with bitmap or vector. But this, and hear me out, is for future scenes that you create. Okay? I think it says it somewhere. Yeah, okay, it says, so default vector layer resolution factor used when creating a new project. So you can change whatever you want here. It's not gonna do anything until you create a new project, okay? So we're not gonna go there because it's not important for now. So just gonna leave it as it is. If you wanna change it in your scene, you have to go to your scene settings. Where is that? It's here, scene and scene setting. And in there, you have so many things, which is exactly what Provo Creative was talking about. So the resolutions are here. So there's some basic ones like HD, 4K, 8K, the other ones. It seems that there's new ones, each new version of the software. It's they're multiplicating. And that's actually one I created myself. It's the 1000 by 1000 for when I post things for Instagram. So I have a square resolution, but that's me. I'm just gonna go here and in drawing resolution, here is the same thing we had in the preferences, but now it's at the scene level. So if you change this, this is for any new drawing layer that is gonna be created in your scene. So you see here my quality was bad because well, not bad, but not enough for my taste. So I'm just gonna put it at like 400% just to have a big difference between the two. And I'm gonna say okay. So now if I create another drawing layer and I call it test, because naming your layers is important. And I start to draw, you'll see that the quality will be way better at the same zoom. So I'm gonna take back that brush here. You see, I'm starting to get a lot of more resolution than I had in the past. Look at how crisp these little details are. And what if I take the brush with the stars again? We're gonna see the stars way better. Oh my God, so much resolution. This is amazing. So now we can truly see the stars. So that's great. Never forget to have your resolution to the right size. However, little disclaimer, this is gonna make your scene heavy, so be mindful. There's a reason why it's not that high by default. It's because we don't want you to strain your computer. Okay, so always be mindful when you pump up the resolution, and don't pump it up by like 8,000%, because it's gonna break and nobody's gonna have fun. Okay, so keep it to a decent number. I think even 400% is a bit much for me, but So you have to understand that if the scene resolution is 190, I can't say words in English. 1920 by 1080. Yeah. If it's 400%, that means that your pixel drawing resolution will be like this times 4. So it's getting big. So be careful. We're both already no. 313 and 17, that's a lot of layers. Oops. Um, all right, so that's it. So that's for future drawings, okay? So it's not going to change the resolution on my current older layer, okay? So that's for the future. And then there's yet another place you can change it. You can do it also per drawings. This is useful because sometimes you want to maybe sketch something ugly on one layer, and then on your new drawing, you can draw something, and you can right-click on that new drawing, for example. I'm going to create a new drawing. Right. That button is hiding. That's not normal. What are you doing, button? Can you... Ah, there you go. New button. You can also right-click, and in there you're going to find... On your layers? Where is it? I keep forgetting where it is, because I don't do it often. Drawing. Oh, there it is. I was looking for it, and my mouse was on it. Change vector drawing brush resolution. So that's for, like, your current drawing. So like you see 400%, this is what I set up in my scene. But if I want for that special drawing, I want the resolution to be like 1,000 or like 900% more. I can do that. It's going to be very heavy, but my brush will be amazing. But you can see that my computer is having a bit of a problem right now to render. So, I mean, don't do what I do, okay? The stars, not can do it today. El Dorado was a cool movie. I love that movie so much. Okay, so that's it. Remember, 3 places to change your resolution: preferences, scene setting, and your drawing. And this is really important because you can spend as much time doing a new brush. If it doesn't look good on paper, then it doesn't look good, all right? But now let's go back to, and just to be sure, did some of you knew that already? Did I just waste 10 minutes of your precious time? I really hope that I just taught something new to all you lovely people. But let us know if that was new to you in the chat, because that's fun. So now let's go back to the brushes. Okay, so disclaimer number 2 for the brushes. You have to understand that the brushes in Harmony are made for line work. So the brushes that they use, you know what a brush is? A brush tip, I mean? It's that kind of thing. It's an image. This is what you would use for a brush tip, for example. This is what you see in the brush textures. I'm going to get to that. So that is a brush tip. The brush tip, you draw it in any software. You can draw it in Paint, in Krita, in Harmony, in Clip, in any software you want. That's not important. You can even like, oops. Yeah, you can draw it everywhere. But what I want to get to is that in Harmony, when we package the software, the brushes are usually using images that are a pixel wide and 100 pixel large, like that. So that's what we use for the brush tip. This is because the brushes are meant to do line work, so then it's okay. If you want a brush to do bigger things, such as maybe you want to have your amazing animation be painted like you want. I'm just going to draw a quick otter here, because, you know, I know how to draw. I keep forgetting that, but I actually know how to draw. Instead of just talking, I'm going to draw something. So that's the otter. If I wanted to have a very cool painterly style to it, and I would use this brush, even if I have a very, very big resolution in my scene, you have to remember that by default in the software, the brushes are 100 pixel wide. So if you draw something that is a bit bigger than 100 pixel, it might look a bit pixelated, and that's still fine. I'm gonna try to make it really big, just so that I can prove my point. You know, that's the funny thing with Harmony. Each time I try to to prove something wrong, it's right still. So I'm gonna make it really big so that I can prove my point. Oops. If you want to have a very, very big texture under your character, oh, there you go. I don't have as much quality as my other lines, for example. And that's because the brush tip was a pixel white. So if you want to do very white splotches of paint for your color, you'll have to make your brush yourself. Your brush tip yourself. But that's okay. We're going to see that in a couple of minutes. So making your brush tip is something we're going to get to in a moment. I'm just going to write it so that I don't forget, because I tend to forget stuff, even easy stuff like that. So we can make our brush tips. It's super easy, don't worry. Oops, I'm going to get rid of that little thingy here. But as I was saying, the brush by default are 100 pixel wide and large. So remember that the brushes in Harmony are meant for line work as usual. Like these two are a bit larger, but most of the tips are a bit smaller. So let's talk back about the tips and tricks to make little brushes. So as I said, usually you find one that you kind of like, and it's a good place to start with. And I'm talking about brush texture now. I'm going to talk about pencil after. So the brush here, like I'm going to go back and get my watercolor one. It was this one, I think. Yeah, because I like it. So maybe you like this brush, but maybe you don't like that it's a bit too fuzzy. And instead of it being fuzzy on the side, maybe I want it to be a bit harder. So that's where you would get the different brush types, the brush tips. And by the way, for the brush tips, to be able to use them, of course, you need a textured vector. Because if you just use solid vectors, yeah, it's just shapes. So be sure to use textured vectors so that you can get all the lovely bitmap tips. And then again, these are the default ones of Harmony, but nothing stops you from importing your own, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go here, add, load a texture file. I had it on my desktop. Where is it? There it is, my brush. Open it, and I have my new tip that I made myself. And then I can just start to draw with it. And I can adjust my texture so that it's going to look different. Instead of having the little spikes here, I have something more like a cloud, and maybe that's what I want. I kind of like it. Oh, it's so soft. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I made myself a new favorite brush. Anyway, that's cool. Experimenting is always fun. Right, so where was I going with that? Yeah, so the brush tip, you can adjust them on your own. Like I said, if you want to put the star. Oh my god, that's kind of cool too. You see, you have to experiment, because sometimes you're going to see a star, think it's stupid, and then what do you know? It makes a very cool caterpillar thing. It really looks like a caterpillar. Let me give it antennas. Oops, I'm drawing behind. I kind of like it. Okay, so I mean, you can do whatever you want with it, and just have fun. So I'm not gonna go too much into the detail about handling brush, because that's not my specialty. I'm a hobbyist in terms of brush making. And I'm pretty sure there's more knowledgeable people than me that can explain to you how making a brush works. But in Harmony, there's a couple of things you can play with. So maximum size, minimum size. Changing the roundnesses and angle is also a fun thing that you can do right here. I know when I draw fire, I tend to take, for example, a brush that might be square, and I like to change like the angle of my vector brush to make it like this so that I can have some cool angles when I draw fire, I like to do that. Even if it's not vector, it can work with any brush, really. But yeah, so playing with that is fun. The hardness and spacing, this is also like depending to get your thing more or less blurry and stuff. So kind of cool to play with that. And yeah, so have fun playing with these settings. I'm gonna jump to something else. Though one thing that people also don't know what it is usually is the centerline smoothing. So the centerline smoothing is what you would find sometimes in other software, where you draw, and the software is gonna decide to change your line after you drew it. You know, that happens in some other softwares, and it's okay because a lot of people love it. So if you love this, you can do it in the centerline smoothing. I just want to get your attention on something because it is a newish feature that came out some. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, it's kind of newish, but you can use this instead of using centerline smoothing, which edits your drawing after. Instead, what you can do is just get the pen setting toolbar. This thing. It is amazing because it's going to smooth your drawing as you go instead of doing it after. So it gives you a very, very cool drawing feel instead of, you know, you're sure you drew something right and then it changes it. It used to be very great, but with as times evolved and the software got more refined, we kind of changed that feature for the pen setting instead. So if you're wondering why out of a sudden in a new version of the software, if you come from like 12 to 20, that's why the centerline was put down so that you can get the pen setting working. If the pen setting is not your thing and you prefer centerline smoothing, by all means, use that, and it's very great, especially if you set it to like 10%. It's just going to keep your line from having too many vector points, just so you know. Yeah, Provo Creative, you're right. That's what I was going to say. It's that's what I usually do. I use the centerline smoothing to up to like 10 or 5% and the pen setting. So everything is smooth like butter animation. I'm going to keep that little caterpillar because I kind of like it. So, no! Oh my God. What happened? Okay, enough about weird caterpillar thingies. Of course, if you work with a textured vector, you can work with the transparency. Dual tip is if you want to go next level and have two tips to your brush to have even more control on how it looks. You have to activate it and just click on it to personalize it even more. That's kind of cool. And the paper texture is also something you can adjust and have fun with. Right. A little thing that I personally like when I use textures on my brush, I like to uncheck the aligned just so that it makes it that much more random when you put little paper texture on your brush, so that each time you draw, the texture kind of shifts a little bit, so it's less always the same. I don't know. I like it. It's just a personal preference of mine, but I don't usually put textures in my brushes, so whatever. So that's it for brushes. I'm gonna take a quick 5 minutes just to show you how to do them in life. I'm not a big Photoshop user, but that's what I had on my computer, so that's what I'm gonna use for now. I mean, if you want to create a new brush, either you do it in Harmony, but if you are a Photoshop fan and you want to get your brush tip from that you love so much from that software, which I don't really know how it works that much. Let's say I want to get a snowflake pattern. You can just, all you need is to get a white background and just stamp it. Oh, that's a bit too big. Too big. Better. So my brush is going to be three snowflakes. Because you know what? It's Halloween, but you know what's coming? Winter. I'm going to make it black because it needs to be black on white. That's going to be my new brush tip. Now, all you need to do is save it. And you need to have the white background because Harmony is going to use the white as transparency and the black as what is showing up. Okay, so if it's 100% white, it's gonna be transparent. If it's black, it's gonna be opaque. And if it's gray, it's gonna be, you know, a couple of percentages. And then I save it as, I don't know, a JPEG or a PNG or whatever. And that's it. So that's gonna be my new brush, brush 3. And it's gonna be a snowflake brush tip. Then let's go back in Harmony and try it. I'm gonna go here, go to tip, add a new tip, find it. It was called brush 3 because I'm an organized person, usually. That's not true. And then I'm gonna use that to draw. And if I make it bigger, you see I'm having little snowflakes. Yeah. Oh my God, I keep creating new stuff that I love. Look how gorgeous it is. Oh my goodness, that's so cool. All right, so that's how you do about brush creation. It's all about experimenting. So about the question from earlier, I'm trying to catch on with the chat, but that's a lot of people talking. Ah! But about the question from earlier about the brush and the pencil. Somebody asked if after it's drawn, can I change the texture? With a brush stroke, no. But with a pencil, yes. So I'm gonna get to the pencil in a moment. Okay. Keep waiting a little bit. By the way, I'm making brushes, but you need to save your brushes. And to save your new brush, you can just press on the little pencil here called new brush. It's as easy as that. And then you name it new amazing brush so that you can feel good about yourself and about creating something and then feeling good because you did something today. I created a new brush and it's gorgeous. Yeah, and then if you want to export it, you can just right click, you can just click here, go to export your brush, and then just find it in the list and export it. So it's as easy as this to export your brushes and save them. Okay. Right. So with the brushes, now that you have it, what you can do is just start to clean up your lovely animation. And just one tip I want to show you when you clean up, and I'm going to use my new fantastic brush to do that. Like this. All right, so I'm going to use my new brush to clean or sketch. And like this. Ooh, I love it. And I'm giving it, and on purpose, I'm giving it a really, really painty look. And I'm going to show you one of my favorite techniques to paint inside a drawing. Of course, there's a bit of tweaking to do with that brush, but I kind of like it so far for something I created in 5 seconds. Yeah, it's getting kind of cool. So if I want to have a zone that is filled out with paint, what you can do is go here. There's an option called autofill, and I love it so much. It's not a controversy. It's just 2 different things with the brush and the pencil. So if I do that, then I can just have my little eye here. So with that option, I'll be able to maybe paint the inside of my character. Okay, that seems good. I'm gonna add the little whiskers. Oh, it's so cute. And then to paint my character, I'm just gonna use the color I have here. And when I paint, I love to use the model view, just saying. Model view, I can just import a frame of my animation that I would already have painted. And then you can just start from that frame and click on the frames to get the colors. So this is my belly color. There. And I'm just going to use that autofill feature to be able to maybe paint my eye first. And I'm going to do that on my color art, of course. And I'm going to do that. And as it fills, I'll be able to paint the inside of my character with a very nice texture look. Woo! So it gives a nice soft texture to the way you paint. I usually mix that with draw behind so that I don't draw in front of what I already have. But yeah, this is if you want your coloring to also have a very bitmappy textury look. Because otherwise you can just create your color art from your line art like we usually do. Like this. You can get your color art created, but that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about like hand drawing your colors. A bit like the movie Ernest and Celestine, or like Wolfwalker is also another movie that came out that you could use a technique similar to that to really hand draw and hand paint your different colors to get kind of a more unique look. Just gonna do this one last color bit, and after that I'm gonna jump to the pencil line. It's so cute. Oh, and then let's go on the overlay layer to add a little iris, not iris, highlight. And actually I miss, and that's the fun thing with working in vector. I actually used the wrong color for the eye. Since I'm using the brush, I cannot change the texture once I drew it, but at least I can still change the color to something else. That's not the right color. What are you doing, software? I'm just gonna go get my colors and get the pupil. Yeah, that's better. Ta-da! And that's my little otter cleaned up with a very textury look. All right, so to answer the question of which to use the cleanup, brush or pencil, it really depends on what you do. Of course, the brush allows you to have a very, very textury feel, but it's also time consuming to use. So maybe for a personal project or a long feature film, it would work. But if you have a personal project, I always advise to go with the pencil. So I'm going to show you. So I spent a good 30 minutes just on the brush, but now that you know the basics, the pencil is just easier. So it's going to go quicker. So for the pencil, I can just go get my pencil here and get my... So it's the same with the pencil. Harmony offers you a bunch of different pencils. And by the way, we are kind of time limited. So one thing here that you have to note is that if you don't know the difference between the pencil and the brush, we have lots of videos about it, lots of tutorials. It's something you can check out after. Today, I'm just going to explain like how to use them rather than what they are. So if you don't know what the pencil or the brush difference are, yeah, you can check it out later. But prepare to be impressed because the pencil is pretty cool. So the difference with the brush is if I draw with a texture, it's great, but I can't change that texture after I drew it. So if you really know what you're doing, go with the brush. It's really great for different styles. But if you're kind of in the middle and you don't know what, you're not sure about what you're doing, and or you have a style that will have lots of camera movement, and sometimes you need to zoom in and out of the lines, and you have lots of reuse, you might want to use the pencil. The reason for that is that the pencil, I get a texture, please. The pencil has a, oh yeah, I didn't have my texture here. There we go. The texture is procedural. So if you want to change it to another texture after. Oh, and by the way, just like for the brushes, remember that the texture is meant for lines. So you're not supposed to see it that big. Usually a line will be a bit smaller. If you want to have a texture that is very big, you'll have to plan it in advance and have a very large texture file. Harmony's texture file, just to remember, is 100 pixel wide. So that's why they're not supposed to zoom that much on the line. But just so that you can see at home, I'm going to make it larger. So it's going to be funny. But with the pencil, even after you drew it, you can change the texture to something else. And if you look closely, this kind of looked like a brush. So yeah, so there's lots of different texture that you can choose from, and you can change it after you drew it. So that's why usually people say that it's better to clean up with the pencil, and I kind of agree. So for most project, it's actually better, and I'll advise everyone to clean up using the pencil. Because you know that what's great about that texture is that you can create line boiling super easily, because here is the texture, and if you change it, you can use the edit gradient texture to edit that texture after. You can scale it, you can translate it, you can rotate it, and you know what else that you can translate, rotate, scale, and stuff? A peg. So you can set that texture on a peg and have it dance around in your animation, which is something I'm going to show you if we have time, which I don't think we have. But it's okay. We can keep that for another day. And like the fish face says, we usually use the brush for sketches or feature film or very specific cleanup, but it's usually for sketches, while the pencil line is meant for cleanup. So I'm just going to show you what I mean for that. And I'm going to clean this head really quickly. Again. Boop. So I'm going to go here and draw this fairly quickly with the default Harmony brush pencil line. And with my line work, please. Like this. This. I'm doing quick, okay? So don't judge me. Cleaning up is fun. And then I'm just going to color that with my colored fill to draw behind. There you go. And all my lines are closed because I was careful. Most of them. How dare you? Thank you. So then if I go to my color art and I want to color, it's going to be way easier to color it. So I'm just going to copy paste I'm just going to transfer my line to my color art to start to color. And it's going to go very, it's way quicker like that than it was with the paint from before. That's the eyes, the pupil, and the teeth, and the insides. Okay, so that's my other. And the fun thing is that now if I want to shift and change my texture, I can just change it after I drew it. And if I have a, if I have a camera movement and I need to zoom in, I can just make my line smaller. That's cool. But you cannot do that with the brush. So they all have good qualities and the opposite of quality, which I forgot what it is in English, but pretty cool. So actually, I do have time to show you the cool trick. So if you have this drawing and you want to play with the line a little bit, what you can do is just go get the color picker. And by the way, Harmony 20 has a color picker, but it also have a texture picker so that you can remember what texture you actually used on your textured lines to find out what you used. Or you can also use the select tool, and it's also going to show you what texture you used. So depending on what you need, it's going to show you here which one you used. So that's charcoal. Then if I just go ahead and get a color override, I'm going to do that very quickly. So stay tuned. Color override, my best friend. You'll learn to like it, I'm pretty sure. And I go here and I go get my pencil texture, which is charcoal, and I put it here, then I can tell it to be controlled by a peg. And then if I put a peg on my color override, I can then control my texture with thank you. Where is my color card? There you go. I can transform my texture with the peg. And if I move the peg, which is here, if I move it, my texture moves. So if you animate your peg moving, you can create fake line boil. And if you rotate it, you can create my cool favorite thing, which is like a fake paint look. It's amazing. And if you're interested, I have a video about it on my YouTube channel to show you how to do that. Okay, so I really hope you had fun. And if you're interested more into the textures, yeah, I really hope that you had fun. And if you want to have more fun with the textures and create some very cool looks like this one, we have lots of resources for you to learn from. There is the Toon Boom's Learn portal. We have an amazing community on Discord that you can check out, and they're going to help you learn. There's so many things that you can do to learn. So yeah, Learn portal, the Discord, the community of Toon Boom. I have a YouTube channel that I think is linked. Yeah, somebody linked my... No, it's not there, but I'm going to put it. So I have also a YouTube channel that you can learn from. And there is exactly this video that is going to be helpful to you. I'm just going to give it to you right here. Yeah, so if you're interested into learning more about like pencil textures and stuff, here is the thing that you need. Because I didn't cover, yeah, I didn't cover the brush yet, but now you just saw it in advance before everyone else, because that's going to be a future video. But for now, if you're interested into learning more about like how to create your own pencil texture, you can do so on YouTube. I have a little thing that I can give you to create your own pencil texture. All right. So be sure to check it out. And it was a pleasure. I really hope I answered all your questions in the chat and that I made you learn more. And yeah, animation is animation. So never stop learning and always learn more and more and achieve your dreams. So, all right. Thank you all for coming. And I'll see you maybe next time in a couple of weeks. And we stream every week. So be sure to tune in on our Twitch channel. And with that, I wish you a wonderful day. Bye.